In this video, I want to show you how you can import Ableton projects into Bitwig. Now, the chances are that you're probably already an Ableton user and you've moved across onto Bitwig and you want to know how you can transfer your projects that you've been working in Ableton across to Bitwig. And Bitwig really has a simple solution. And all you really need to do is go to the File menu, click Open, and then navigate to your Ableton project. And it will transfer your tracks across and translate them to the instruments and effects within Bitwig. But first, let me show you my Ableton project. So I'm going to jump across to Ableton. Here is my Ableton project with a selection of different tracks. If I just go through these tracks, you can see here, I've got some MIDI effects before. This is going into an analog bass patch, into an EQ. Here is a drum rack with some samples loaded into it. Then after this is the acid bass patch. It is using an instance of the operator into a selection of instruments plus a MIDI effect before. Then Atom Lead is also an operator with some effects. And then I've got the saw lead patch here that uses analog. So these are dedicated instruments to Ableton. Now, how is it going to transfer these across to Bitwig? Let me show you. But before doing that, what I suggest is to make sure that you do a collect all and save in Ableton. What this is going to do is it's going to collect all the media files that are associated with the project and save them into one project folder. Now, I've already done this, but I'm just going to click OK to do it again just to show you. And then I'm going to jump across to Bitwig. I'm going to go to File, Open, and then from Open, I'm going to navigate to that project. So this is on my desktop. Here's the Ableton project folder, and here is the Ableton project file. As you can see, it's got the extension .als. And I'm going to click Open. And as you can see, Bitwig is going to attempt to open up this Ableton project. There you go. So as you can see, it has pulled tracks in, and it has assigned it to different instruments. So if I go across to the saw bass, as you can see, it's assigned it to an analog bass patch within Bitwig, going into an EQ. This is a drum machine. It's added the drum samples that were saved within the Ableton project and the relative EQ that's been associated with it. This is just a snare sample, a reverse snare that I had in the project. Over here is another instrument, which is the bass, just given that the name defaults. So you're going to have to go in and just rename some things. It doesn't pull across everything correctly, but it really does a great job. As you can see, this is used an acid bass patch, which is pretty similar to the one that I had in Ableton, going into an amp emulator and then an EQ. And here is another synth instrument, which is the Atom Lead, also going into an amp and EQ. And then finally, this track over here, which is a saw lead patch. So it's assigned to a saw lead patch as well, going into the relative, bit crusher, and reverb plugins. Now that is pretty amazing. Check, I've got all the clips that have been pulled from Ableton. As you can see, it's detected some of the automation that's on the tracks. So if I just go to automation, choose that clip, maybe, there is a volume automation that's been added to the clip. If I just switch quickly across to Ableton and I show the automation, here's the bass track. As you can see, there's the automation on the bass. Switch back to Bitwig. Here is another track with some automation. I'm guessing it's on this lead patch here. There is panning adjustments on that saw lead. If I go across to Ableton, I've got that saw lead. And as you can see, there's some panning information. So that really is amazing how much you can pull from one application. So if you're a previous Ableton user and you're wanting to move across to Bitwig, you haven't lost your projects, you can take them, move them across. You're just going to have to do some slight adjustments. For example, if I just play this back at bar 53, this is what it sounds like. Now just jumping across back to Bitwig at bar 53, we are here. As you can hear, there are different synths that have been brought in, but more than half the work has already been done for you. You've got the MIDI note data that's been brought in. You've got automation that's been brought in as well. If you just click on the automation clips, you can see the automation. It has given you some default patches that is sort of loaded up in the devices. It's got the MIDI effects and instruments, and then the audio effect devices after that. So all you need to do is go back to some of your synth instruments maybe, and adjust the instruments that you want to use in your Bitwig project now. Or in your Ableton project, if you're using third-party effects, you can just go in here and replace them with the same third-party instruments that you used in Ableton. So if you're coming from Ableton to Bitwig, definitely use this feature to pull in your Ableton projects into Bitwig so you can recreate them in this environment and take the benefit of the features that are within Bitwig. Also, just another quick thing that I just wanted to point out, as you can see in the clip launcher, it's also pulled the same clips. So if I jump back to Ableton, go over to the clip launcher view, there are the clips. Obviously, the clip launcher looks very different to the way that Bitwig has it set out. It's pretty close, but if I go to Bitwig, there you go. So it will pull anything that's in your range view and your clip launcher. So that's how to use the import feature to import Ableton projects into Bitwig.